Hello, everybody. My name is Joel Filderman, and welcome to the Dog Trainers Connection. I'm not a dog trainer, but these other people you see here are. We get together, we discuss a topic, we come up with some thoughts, some ideas. We always have an interesting discussion and sometimes come up with some answers. Um, Today, what I'd like to discuss, trainers, is well, they've been saying that we're hitting the peak of the curve and that we're getting through the worst of this. So as dog trainers, what I want to ask at this point is, what are you guys doing to prepare for when we do come out of this pandemic? Is there anything in particular? Is there anything particular that you want to change? Or is there anything particular that you want to do or stop doing? So, Helen, let's start with you today.
Oh, yay. Yeah, actually, I've thought about a few things. I run group classes, and quite frankly, I work out of my home. So I run classes in my backyard, but that's not always feasible with weather. So I made my basement into a whole training area. I'm not going to do that anymore. Classes will be held only outdoors, so that we can maintain and I'm going to make them a little smaller. They were always small. I never had large classes, but I'm definitely going to limit it to 4, maybe 5, and that's it. And I'm also, unfortunately, not going to allow people to bring other people to class. So it's 1 person per dog, and that's it. I usually allow couples and, children of a certain age. And if it's a puppy kindergarten, it's like, yay, the more the merrier. But I'm not going to do that. And I'm actually going to ask people to wear masks. I'll supply them if I can get them. I have some on order. I don't know if they'll come in time. And basically, that's my big change. And well, actually, and also privates. I think I'm going to avoid going into people's homes for a while. And try to work just outside and maintain distance. That said, I don't know how long I can manage that, but definitely the group classes, no longer indoors until this is completely over. And they'll just be outside, weather permitting. I'll have to, if weather doesn't permit, class will be canceled. And that'll be it. It's unfortunate, but these are the adjustments that we have to make.
Okay. Joyce, you want to chime in?
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
All right, cool.
It's a phrase that's become very popular lately.
Exactly. The weird thing is we've experienced a little bit of a downturn in our training. Mostly it's been for my privates, but our day training has kept pretty much going pretty busy, which I found interesting. We've been adding on clients every week. So I think the biggest change for me is I personally, for my portion of it, I'm going to try to do some more virtual training. I think that'll help me not have to travel these crazy Atlanta area highways so much. And I think it'll be more of a convenience for my clients. I've already had some that have taken me up on it and they seem to enjoy it. So that's what I've kind of gotten. It's kind of kicked me in the butt to get started on that and experiment a little bit with Zoom and what different ideas we can put out there.
Okay. Jeff?
Apologize if you hear barking in the background. It's witching hour for the 3 feral puppies. I don't know. I mean, I guess just private training is something that would have to change. I don't know. Haven't really put much thought into it, except the limitations just due to the nature of the dogs I work with. Sometimes it has to be in a person's home for safety reasons. I can't go into a home wearing a mask. I don't wear hats. I don't wear glasses. I don't wear anything when I'm working with problem dogs. It puts the dogs in a position to experience anxiety or potentially put them in a position to fail. And, obviously when we work with problem dogs, we want to create the best possible scenarios, at least for me, because I need to get my hands on a leash. I don't care what level of behavior the dog is having. I need that leash in my hand. I need to interact with the dog. I need to get the dog on a walk. Like, that's usually kind of my first line of defense, so to speak. And so I guess that, that kind of limits my ability to go into certain homes. Some people I could probably meet out in a park somewhere and we can maintain some distance. Other than that, I guess I'm like everybody else, just wait and see how this is going to unfold when we kind of start, I guess, getting back into society, if you will. Otherwise, nothing at home really changes other than, intakes. Normally I have an open door policy for rescues that bring dogs to me because I want them to see where their dog is going to be. But I haven't allowed anyone in my home since this started. I meet them outside and everybody understands. They probably don't want to come in anyway for the same reason I don't want them to come in. So, but I still send them video updates and things along those lines. So nothing really changed in that regard. And then obviously I kind of like doing the Zooms. I mean, I've done them for a while, but obviously I'm doing them more now. I kind of like not having to go anywhere. Not that I don't have a ton of private training down here in the Southeast, but most of the ones I do, they're problem dogs. So again, that limits me. So I guess I'm just a wait and see right now. And other than that, business as usual at home.
Okay. Bonnie?
Well, I just wanted to ask Joyce. Joyce, you said that you are doing some virtual training on Zoom. And I just wanted to ask you what's worked for you. Like what you said, people have enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the simplicity of it, I just sent them. It was in the beginning, it was a little difficult to get the invitations figured out, but I finally figured out the simplest way to do an invitation with somebody and get them connected in. And I think what I'm hearing is as much as I enjoy doing it from home and not having to leave, they enjoy doing it from home as well. None of these yet have been difficult cases.
Right.
So these are new clients that I just brought in. So we're in the first stages of the getting to know you phase. So there might be muzzle training they're doing or something, to steps to get them ready for their training. So it'll be the big question for me is how are the demonstrations going to go? Because I'm used to hands-on and doing the demonstrations, the client right there. So I'm a little concerned about that. The good thing is I have a very good dog to use for a lot of that stuff, but until you get the experience, I'm just not sure what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think that's how it's going for everybody, and figuring out what you can show, how you're going to show it, how you're going to teach it, because it's like we all have to. And is a person in a class going to be comfortable, even if they're 6 feet away from you, handing you their dog's leash and then them taking the leash back? Everybody's going to be, and how much can you actually do being 6-10 feet away or teach? And I think that, and I'm just thinking of this now after I asked you that question, Joyce, I think switching to training virtually is going to really help dog trainers, because you're going to have to be more clear about your instructions and the actual teaching, because the physical showing is just, you're going to have to, like Joel actually asked me what was the hand signal if I were teaching sit. So I did it. He couldn't see it from the direction I did it in. It didn't look, he said, you got to turn to the side, and then he saw it. So I think, we're all going to be figuring that out. Those steps, what's going to make it clear and understandable to your client so they can be successful. But I mean, I think it's terrific that, we're just able to have a consult and talk to them and reassure clients and just get them some help, even just talking one-on-one. That's really, really great.
Yeah, I think the one I'm seeing now, mostly from people, is they're calling and saying, I was out on a walk with my dog and my dog bit somebody. And I think that's happening more and more because a lot of these people haven't walked their dogs in the past as much. And so currently we have one dog in quarantine with us, and we just had a call from another dog that needed to go into quarantine because of a bite. You know, so this seems that while
Wow.
walking dogs is great, people aren't really doing a great job of distancing, you know, controlling their dogs or having their dogs have that impulse control while they're out on the walk. So we're seeing a lot of that come forward.
Well, like you said, they're not used to it. They're not used to doing it.
And I wasn't sure what problems we were seeing. I kept hearing we have to be worried about separation anxiety when this thing ends.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. But now what I'm seeing is this walking issue. You know, people are out and about with their dogs and they've never done it before, or haven't done it regularly. And, you know, we're having more issues now with the dogs doing things that are, of course, not acceptable. So, you know, trying to figure out how do we work a consult around that when I can't be out there with them. Working on the walking issues. So it's a little bit weird. As far as space, it actually takes two people because I need somebody to hold my camera, and I'm able to work with the dog that I'm working with.
Mm-hmm.
A little different. I have to include one of my other trainers, and you know, so there's some adjustments that we're having to make, but I don't see it as bad. I just see it as different.
Well, isn't that what it really comes down to? Is that it's not bad, it's different? Isn't that what really is going on right now? Is that things are different, and that includes in the dog training world. It's that you know, things have changed, and you have to think differently. You know, you what do you do when you're not able to be there? Steve, have you found that that's the case, or?
Well, I wasn't planning on going back out until about 2022, something like that. You know, why rush? It's scary out there. I mean,
Yeah,
It sure is.
psychological thing, you know, as much as anything else. You know, we're compounded with the whole, it's a new bug. We don't know enough. We don't have enough. We don't seem to be doing enough. You know, we can go on and on with all this stuff, but you know, if something's brand new, then you don't know until you know. So I kind of get why we are where we are. The whole world is behind. Nobody's in front of this one because they didn't know about this one. It just popped out there. So until we're better at it, in terms of the whole deal, the whole antibody, antigen, testing, type, efficacy, you know, all that, until finally 2 years later, vaccine. I'm saying 2022, I might do a house call, you know, we'll see. But if I had to do a house call, I'm not doing the give me your leash.
mm-hmm.
I'm taking my own leash and I'm connecting it to the dog's collar. And so I'll have my control and they'll have their leash and they'll have theirs. And if I don't want them to hold their leash, I'll have them drop their leash and I'll have mine. If we have to walk together, I'll still have my leash, they'll still have theirs, just in, you know, for the sake of timing, because, you know, this thing about how do you demo your if you have an exercise and you want to teach it, you got to get with the dog.
Right.
You got to get with the dog. And that means, I mean, I don't know, do I have to worry about touching their dog? I mean, you know, that's a sad state of affairs. I don't really know the answer to that. And, you know, I mean, I have spent most of my life risking my own, you know, to help animals. I mean, how many x-rays have I taken? You know, I don't even want to talk about that. I glow in the dark, for God's sake. So, you know, I've done things over the years that were definitely to the benefit of the animals, not to my own physical health. But I'm old now. So I have to think to myself, you know, I'm one of those that's on that list of got issues. You know, do you have any underlying issues? I am an underlying issue, you know. So, I mean, with that said, I don't really necessarily, you know, want to take my, like, the whatever I got left and, like, you know, like pop it down on a puppy for a minute. You know, I might want to, like, relax a little. I'm good at explaining a lot of the things. Like back in the chain collar days, one of the test questions at the Society of North American Dog Trainers was explain to a client how to properly put a slip collar on a dog, right? This is all with the assumption that it's going to be on the left and that, right, this kind of thing, the whole P story, like describe that. Now, if you couldn't explain it, then you were going to get the you're going to get marked wrong, right? You couldn't show. You had to talk through it.
And how many trainers these days can do that, Steve?
Well, we're not going to have to talk about the slip collar much anymore, but there are a lot of things that if you try and explain, that, this is where like the other animals thing comes in a little bit, like animals that you have less expectations for, perhaps, so if Dennis was around, we could probably talk about goats, right?
You're referring to other animals other than dogs.
Other than dogs,
Okay.
And so where teaching is much more hands-off in the first place, right? It's not about the leash, right? It's about the walker and the rewards and stuff, right? It's not about the leash. Dogs are a little different story because they live in your house and stuff. But, I'm sort of running into the client that because of the Zoom thing, and I'm already getting the separation cases, and they're not even separated yet. They can't even walk out of the room.
Wow.
How come? Because they only put their dogs in the crate when they're going to be leaving for some period of time. And they teach the dogs now that the crate means isolation, and they're going to the bathroom in the crate, which is, we all know, so unnecessary. They only do it if they're scared shitless. And why would they be? If you only lock them in the crate and go away all the time, and you don't allow them to spend some kind of time in the crate when you're there, allowing them to maybe cope a little bit better when you're going in and out of the room and, stuff like that. But when you talk to them about it, they're like, they're nervous about separation anxiety, but not one of them has a thought about using a crate in a routine sort of a manner. Everybody thinks punishment, but to this day, people think crate, punish, crate.
Sure.
And you try to explain to them it doesn't have to be that way. It's only if you present it like that. But if you only ever use the crate when you're leaving, a smart dog is going to figure that out. And you put them in there and they instantly are becoming anxious because they assume they're going to be left alone. But these are things that can be explained to people. And if they listen and pay attention, they may be able to get through it and help when they actually do have to leave. Because it's going to be a nightmare for all of us when people really start getting back out. And these dogs that are not expecting to be left. I mean, how long have we really been stuck? 6 weeks, maybe? We've only been stuck around 6 weeks. How could so many good dogs that were comfortable in their own skin, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, in a 6-week period of time, they all went to crap. What have we done here? I mean, we're not doing the right thing in a lot of ways, and, I was the guy who was like happy to see everybody out there walking their dogs on a leash, but they really weren't doing it for the dogs. I think they were doing it for themselves. And the dogs, maybe it was a little lucky thing on the side, but maybe not so much because maybe they're not being given an opportunity to learn how to be comfortable with being left alone. That's the job.
So.
Right?
One of the questions that I have based upon what you're asking, Steve, is, and this isn't necessarily to you, do you think that more people are going to surrender their dogs because of this? Do you think that once we come out of this, whenever that is, then when the dogs have the separation anxiety, when they're freaking out because people are leaving again, do you think that the shelters are going to get full because of all of that?
I'm worried about that. Aren't we all nervous about that? All the people that took the fourth, they emptied the shelters, right? It was yippee, hooray, hooray. And they went to all these fosters. Is it not that the moment everything's sort of like safe, when we believe that, whatever that is, are they going back? I mean, how many will actually end up in a home and stay there? They started as a foster because of the situation to actually maintain the dog. And then the ones that go back, are they going to be better off or worse off when they go back now that they've actually had like a home, a real environment, affection, attention, time spent, all that? I mean, it's just I'm afraid for the animals. It's going to maybe be sad.
So to go along with the topic that I've been asking, is there something that you as trainers or that the shelters can do to get ready for that?
I don't got the answer to that. I wish I did.
I think just what I was thinking when you were talking, Steve, and after your question, Joel, is that, and it's going to be hard to do because we can't get in person that well. Group classes is to have classes to teach people these things. I mean, the people who foster dogs, and if they were doing a little bit of training, you know, sit, go to bed, mat, whatever, down, learning that, being in the crate, coming out, getting rewarded. If people were doing that now and spending, not just walking their dogs, but spending some time training, then when they go back to work, their dog would probably be okay. So maybe the focus somehow is going to be on just addressing those issues, and the shelters too, and maybe just taking a risk and giving some group classes where you don't have to touch the dog, but you can talk to people.
Would the client feel cheated? I'm afraid.
The client feel cheated. Why?
Right? Well, because, you know, you go into a class and a lot of times, I don't know, they always seem to have the expectation that the trainer's going to touch their dog.
Mm-hmm.
So I always used to have to go around one to the next, to the next, to the next, and you spend a minute doing it with theirs. Because if the puppy works for you, then it doesn't work for them, it doesn't speak to the puppy's problem, it speaks to the client, right? So as long as you can go around and everyone does it, if you know, you get on the floor, you make it happen, you know, real quick, you see this is going real well, and then you know, they're like, and then now it's your turn and you got to do it. And you just go from one to the next. And now, did you see that model of the restaurant where if there's one person that got the infection? Did you see that?
No, I have not seen that yet.
You know, there are 3 tables in a restaurant. It's just a drawing, right?
Yeah.
But about how contagious this virus is. So there's a restaurant drawing, right? 3 tables. Middle table's got 3 people in it. One person's infected.
Mm-hmm.
This person infects this person, infects that person. By the time they're finished with dinner, everybody in that restaurant is infected. As a dog trainer, if you go from puppy to puppy to puppy to puppy, you potentially can infect every person in your class.
Yep.
So it's a little scary, you know, standing back and teaching. I think we're all capable of doing that. We've been doing this a long time, but we're dog trainers, you know, we have a skill set, not just a knowledge that we use to like influence the client and the dog. If we can't use the skill set, we're taking away half of our opportunity, I think. And so it's just difficult, you know, it is.
And there probably going to need to be some public campaigns on, you know, when the shelters start filling up, from local governments or nonprofit groups about taking some lessons and getting some help rather than returning the dog.
But how's the help? The problem is,
know.
My shelter's got a full-time dog trainer at the SPCA here. They got a full-time staff dog trainer. Who's going to go near the dog trainer? See, that's, you know, it's the next step. It's that we're all happy to help the dogs. How can we do it keeping ourselves safe and the client?
Well, and I think that that's my point in discussing all this, is it is the next step. And I think that one of the things that I think I've gotten out of this conversation with everybody today is that there is no clear answer, but to start thinking about it would certainly help. I just want to leave it with one last question, which I guess would be mainly to Jeff and Joyce, is, you know, we talked about the shelters. What about the rescues? Do you think that that's going to affect the rescues as well?
Joyce, you want to go first? Okay, I'll go first.
Jeff.
Okay. I'm concerned. Obviously, I think everybody's concerned. It's, you know, the dog's potentially going back into the shelter or back into rescue or boarding. I have a dog here that isn't necessarily with a rescue, but a boarding facility rescued the dog. But the boarding facility closed and they asked me to babysit him.
Sure.
And that's just one little tiny place here and one little guy here, right? So, you know, I'm sure that's happening all over the country as well, where people are, you know, little boarding places are reaching out to their friends and stuff. Hey, can you babysit until this thing ends? And then that dog goes back. how is that going to unfold for the dog? What I'm concerned about now, and it is in line with what you guys are talking about, people who are fostering or adopting now,
Sure.
and then what happens when they go back, right? Because of schedule and stuff. What I'm worried about is the dogs that are placed now, however they're placed, whether it's a foster to adopt or adopt, the dogs have no issues right now, right? Because people are home all the time and they don't see issues. And then people go back to normal lives, and then all these issues crop up. So now you have a dog that's going to be surrendered with issues, going back to an environment where the issues are going to be intensified in all likelihood. And I don't know, that's what concerns me. I think rescues, or right now the rescues that I know of and I deal with, their biggest challenge is the actually increase in adoption applications. And so that's, you know, that worries me. It just really worries me. I mean, you know, it's like when a school teacher, they contact me and they say, oh, you know, I'm thinking about getting a puppy, and it's, you know, it's the end of May, and the first thing I say is wait till September.
Sure.
Do not get a puppy when the school year ends. Please don't. You know, because then they get on the summer schedule, teacher goes back to school, and it's the fan. So anyway, I am concerned for the dogs.
Okay. Joyce?
Yeah, I agree with that. I've been talked about that a little bit with some friends, is that, you know, it's hard to even find a dog to rescue right now because the shelters are so empty. So it'd be interesting and probably upsetting when this thing is over and everybody goes, hey, wait, we can't take care of this dog anymore, or this dog's a problem, because their schedules change so dramatically. So I can see a huge influx of dogs coming back. And, you know, we're back in the same boat again where we were before we started this. So.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
I'm out.
You're okay. It wasn't short statement.
No, because it's worrisome. You know, the whole thing is worrisome. I mean, and I think we are thinking about it, Joel. I think that we're forced to have to think about what's going to happen when and if. That's we're so stuck right now with, I don't know when the when and if. I mean, you guys down south, it's a little different for you because, you know, your governor's got plans of like boogieing now, you know. I mean, I'm in New York, but my governor's like, oh, no, you're not going anywhere. Relax. It'll be a while, you know. And you guys down there, it's like you could go out and have a beer or something. I don't know if that's scaring me. That's the way it is.
We can go bowling and get a tattoo now.
There you go. Not necessarily in that order, though, I guess.
Not necessarily.
Wow. All right. Well, so I think the way to leave it is that this conversation will hopefully encourage others to have this conversation, which maybe we can together all come up with some thoughts and some ideas and maybe some answers, as we say in this forum. So at that point, I'd like to thank you all for being here. I'd like to thank you all for watching. And we do our forums on the Zoom platform. And if anybody wants to learn how to use the Zoom platform, you can get in touch with us at info@dogtrainersconnection.com. Be happy to teach you. So thanks a lot, folks. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.